Whether it makes you laugh, cry, scream, or fly, there's a song for every emotion. We're Mike and Priya, and we talk about the songs that make up the soundtrack to your life. Because
life is in the lyrics. Hello, little listeners. I hope you're having some hot fun in the summertime. We've got a tribute episode for you this week. But first, of course, it's time for a little banter to catch up and see what's happening. I don't know. Do we have any rants? Anything we want to rant about, Mike?
I know we said we were going to do a whole rant segment or something like that and whatever, but we kind of lost track of our rants.
We did. I mean, I could rant about anything at any time.
Yes, you know. We know.
Would you like me to rant about something that's bugging me right now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Would I like you to? Do I have a choice in it?
Okay. Well, you do have a choice because I asked you if you'd like me to, and you could have said no.
And if I said no, would you have not done it?
I wouldn't have done it.
Really?
Yeah. Do you want to say no? No. We could just move along.
No, go ahead.
I want to rant about the fact that, see, I have a list of rant items here.
Okay.
And I'm like, which one should I rant about right now? I will rant about my current thing, which really bugs me, which is my nails are always dirty.
I have noticed that.
And I don't understand why they're always dirty. I think it's because I scratch my face a lot. I'm constantly.
So your face is dirty?
I don't know. Like, I guess I don't. And then I'm always like, when I have allergies, like I every now and then I'd like scratch my head or like just scratch my neck. It's always my neck and above is itchy. And then I look at my nails and I'm like, what the fuck is all this shit under my nails?
But you don't wear nail polish, do you?
I don't wear nail polish.
No. I wonder if all the women who wear nail polish
are just hiding their
dirty,
disgusting nails.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Because even when they do those French tip things, like the white line and everything, that totally would cover up the dirt.
That would cover. Now, I usually keep my nails pretty short because they grow so freaking fast, so I haven't had time to cut them. And when they are short, they're better. So maybe it's just because it's easy for things to get under them.
Is it dirt?
What do you think it is?
It could just be your skin tone underneath.
Oh, no. It's dirt. Because then
Yeah?
I clean them out. And I'm like, what is this?
Well, that's gross, little listeners.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move along then.
Okay, there we go.
What's new, Mike? What's new since you've been back?
Oh, what's new?
And also, I had a funny thing last time because it was our first recording, since you had been away for a while, and I was going to do, Since You've Been Gone.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I can't breathe for the first time. I'm so moving on. That's not the right.
Yeah. No, but the first part, Since You've Been Gone.
Yeah. I was going to say, because that's not the right song to sing.
No, that's a breakup.
Yeah.
And isn't it, I Can Breathe for the first time?
Exactly.
I thought you sung, I Can't Breathe for the first
Did
time.
I say I can't?
It sounded like
I
it.
can breathe for the first time.
I know.
Yeah.
Good song.
Yeah, okay, well,
I missed that. I missed that opportunity, but I wanted to get it in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's what he said.
That's what he's... Oh, jeez.
Ba-dum-bum.
I'll just edit that in.
Okay. Speaking of getting it in, however, I did have a recent rendezvous
Oh,
with an ex-rendezvous person.
okay.
Oh.
And
Yes.
we still haven't heard about what happened when you went to Nova Scotia last summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear that story?
Well, do we want to hear it now?
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, we're going to be talking about Brian Wilson and Sly Stone's death.
We don't need to talk
We
about
don't
that
need
right
to
now.
go
Okay.
there. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe we'll save my
We'll save
sexual
that
escapades for
a
another time.
lighter topic.
Yeah, because this week, like this episode, we're talking about, as Mike has just said, the passing of two musical legends, Sly Stone from Sly and the Family Stone, and Brian Wilson of Beach Boys fame, and how incredibly sad that they died 2 days apart. They were born the same year.
Same year, yeah, both 82 years old.
Yeah. And both people who had immense success in the early parts of their career and then kind of disappeared for a while. And then they reappeared, but it was never really recapturing kind of that same glory.
And I have some thoughts about that.
Yeah.
But we can get into that later in the episode.
We can get into it right now. Why not?
Well, okay. Well, when I was reading articles about this as well and, trying to put some thoughts together, I do find it funny that when artists are written about, that especially
like
with musicians.
or do you mean anytime?
No, just like there's this expectation that, oh, you're going to be a prolific musician that, for decades,
Right.
and that the music that you create is going to evolve and be able to meet the evolution of musical standards or
point.
expectations. I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
And so that's one part.
Okay.
The other is they didn't really disappear. They just weren't at the top of the charts. They
Well,
were.
that's what I meant. They
Yeah.
disappeared from the airwaves and actually from their bandmates.
Yeah, yes.
They kind of became recluses for a little while.
I'm kind of talking in general, though, about the way
We frame it.
Yeah, the way these things get framed. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. Are artists supposed to be prolific and at the top of the charts and
Forever.
on everyone's consciousness forever
Yeah.
and ever? Or when you think about musicians, it's rare that you have musical artists who maintain a relevancy over many decades. I mean, there's the Rolling Stones, and Paul
Like
McCartney,
Paul McCartney.
Elton John.
Queen, maybe.
But well, I don't know about Queen, but those are also artists that have, like the Beatles. They're basically like, foundational to all
Modern music.
right? So of course they're going to be on the consciousness, right? What were the other examples I gave?
You said the
Elton
Beatles.
John.
Yes.
Elton John.
Rolling Stones, you said.
Yeah, Rolling Stones. Yeah. So those are like, there's only a small percentage, I think. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Like,
right.
If people have other views on this, then tell me I'm wrong. But I just think when you think about the number of artists that are out there, I mean, we've done an episode on one-hit wonders.
That's very true.
We've also talked about Madonna.
Yeah.
And, the criticisms around her trying to stay relevant.
That's true.
So it is, I just find that all
It's a no-win situation for artists, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're at the top of their game, they're expected to constantly be at the top of their game. Same with, you could say that with actors too, right? Like if you're a movie star, you're expected to be a movie star forever. Like, so if you go and do an indie movie or do something slightly out of your wheelhouse, then it's like criticized for trying that. You're not allowed to spread your wings if it doesn't suit what your audience wants you to do. Yeah, it's an interesting observation.
Yeah. I do wonder, though, if our actors are a bit different, though.
Okay, how?
Well, I'm just thinking, like, what would the equivalent of being at the top of the charts be? Getting an Oscar?
Well, or just being an A-list actor.
A-list actor,
so you think
yeah,
of somebody
okay,
like,
yeah.
When they say like the renaissance of, the actor Brendan Fraser, for example,
Right, yeah.
Or like, because he had a huge comeback with the movie The Whale, and now he's working sort of constantly again. So there are actors. Lindsay Lohan, yeah. There's lots of actors who kind of go through phases of kind of disappearing, and I say that in quotes because they're not in hit movie after hit movie after hit movie, but then they come back and kind of have a second wave of their career. So I guess that's kind of the equivalency I'm bringing up here.
Yeah. Well, anyways, sorry, that was my tangent.
No, but that's a good tangent because, they do say that both of these artists kind of disappeared, but you're right. It's not like they disappeared off the face of the earth. They went away from the public eye for a while. And for Sly Stone, he was, working on he evolved into a different type of musician because when he first was having hit songs with Family Stone, they were very kind of happy. There was a lot of happy music, but when he went away and came back, it was a little more kind of social commentary, darker, more psychedelic. And I think his drug use affected the type of music he made too.
Yeah, I also read that there was a disillusionment with the kind of like civil liberty movements, and that impacted the lyrics and the music.
Because when you think about it, they went from songs like Hot Fun in the Summertime
Yeah.
and Dance to the Music, like really fun, high energy dance songs, to songs like Don't Call Me N-Word, Whitey,
Mm.
And so it was like a real kind of 180 180 maybe, of just songs that really talked about what was going on at the time.
Okay. The little sidebar here. Why did you say N-word?
Oh, I would never say that word.
Even if you were reading something, you wouldn't say it?
Never, ever, ever.
Why?
I can't even say that word in the privacy of my own home without feeling weird about it. And I don't think, like, even if you're making a commentary or anything, I don't think that anybody who's not Black should say that word. And I do recall seeing a clip. I don't remember the artist. I don't remember, but it was a rapper, and he had brought a fan on stage, and they were singing a song, and the fan was singing all the lyrics, and then he sang a lyric that said the N-word, and the rapper stopped and said, whoa, 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 you can't say that. You can't use that word. Which I thought was kind of like, I felt bad for the fan he brought on stage, because you would think, like, I'm singing the song with you. Like, I'm singing the song with you, so I'm going to sing your lyrics.
And it's a lyric in the song.
It's a lyric in your song. But yeah, he was like, you can't say that word.
Interesting.
I don't know. Would you say that word if you're talking about it in a educational or...
Yeah, I don't know. I this has come up in academia where professors have been criticized for using that word when they're speaking about literary works, like they're actually reading, lines or chapters or whatever, and they use that word, and there's been backlash about that. And I don't know. I mean, I would need to read a little bit more about the Black perspective on that.
Well, would you say other words like that demean other cultures, like the slang for Chinese people or the slang for Indian people, which is actually a slang for Pakistani people, because people who use that term are too stupid and ignorant to know that it doesn't reflect the entire Indian diaspora?
But I guess where I'm conflicted around it is about using the word in your conversation versus what you just did, which was you were listing song titles.
Right.
And this was a word in a song title. It wasn't like you were using it in your language as a, it's like, hey, whatever, how you doing? Or, you know what I mean? Or calling somebody a name. You're reading text of that's a fact.
Yes.
The fact is that song has that word in it.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's an interesting kind of tension around language.
Yes. I'm actually just going to look up whether they even say that, like if you look up the song, well, yeah, it does have the word. I mean, I don't know. I just find that I cannot use that word.
Yeah. Well, that's, I guess, a good,
I don't
being
know.
that uncomfortable using that word.
Yes.
To the point where you wouldn't even say it if you're reading something.
Yeah, I couldn't.
So, they like in the U.S., they've banned lots of books, but Huck Finn has been banned because it uses that word.
Which is stupid. Like,
okay, well, then how is that
books.
different from...
Well, because, I mean, you're taking away the cultural context and the historical context. You're trying to erase history. But that's in a book, but I'm not reading the book out loud.
What's the difference between context and cultural history? You just censored
but
yourself.
But the song hasn't been censored or banned. The song hasn't. But
no,
you're
you
saying
censored yourself.
I censored myself, but the song hasn't been censored. But you're saying that the book has been censored.
Yeah.
So that's what
Still
I'm saying. Like
censorship.
Yeah. I mean, I can self-censor. Listen, I rarely censor myself.
I know.
Here, right? Like, you fucking know that I do not censor myself.
You fucking know.
Yes.
Anyways, another little bit of a tangent, but I thought that was just interesting. I wanted to see what was going on with that.
Yeah, like, how would you feel if you had to read that song title? Would you say the word? Probably not now.
I don't know. Probably not now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I don't know.
It makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't even like when Black people use it. Because, and I remember there was an episode of Oprah where I think...
Not opera.
What's Beyonce's husband's name? I cannot
Jay-Z.
remember. Okay, I think Jay-Z was on, and they were having a debate about it.
Mm.
And he was saying why it's, kind of being like they're taking back the word or they're taking ownership of it. And she was like, but why use it anyways? It's such a derogatory word. It's an interesting debate about many things like that. For example, have you seen the new cover? Have you seen the cover for Sabrina Carpenter's new album?
No.
Okay. I'm going to just show that to you for a second. New album. Okay. And then I just want you to tell me what you think of this upon first.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
She's kneeling down in front of a man who's holding her hair.
Yeah.
And she looks like she's crying?
Well, she looks like she's reaching her hand up towards, I don't know. And the title of this album, Man's Best Friend.
Oh, that's provocative.
It's provocative. And there has been a lot of backlash over that because, and I looked up the post for this on Instagram for this album that she posted, and all the comments are negative. People are like, this is not it, bitch. And she's like, it's full of people saying, what are you doing? You are not being empowering here. So I don't know.
And you're a big Sabrina Carpenter fan.
I am a big fan of hers. I like her lyrics. I know that they are sexual, but I find that she usually has a very cheeky way of saying them. But I don't like this cover at all.
Okay.
Not into it.
All right, well, let's go back to Sly and
It's
Brian.
no bueno.
No bueno?
No bueno. Okay. Yeah, let's go back to our two men that we're talking about here. These two incredible people. Okay.
Let's do it. Okay.
Okay, who should we talk about first?
Um,
Let's just set the stage here a little bit because these are two very different artists who had success in similar time periods, completely different genres. So we're talking like Brian Wilson, all-American, beach pop, very California sound, very fun, happy songs. And then we've got Sly and the Family Stone, psychedelic, funk, soul, very different music. It's like, it really is very black and white. Is that where the term came from? But this is a very black and white.
But Sly and the Family Stone, there were some, they weren't all people of color in that band,
No,
right?
they had a very diverse kind of makeup. They had men and women, black people and white people.
And there was like a lot of equality around, like there wasn't a lead singer. There was shared.
Yeah,
different
they shared
people
vocals.
saying, yeah.
But I think he was kind of the soul of that group.
Yeah, he was like he wrote all the songs. Right?
Yeah.
Which big female pop artist, massive world tour, controversial world tour, sang a Sly and the Family Stone song as part of a mashup with one of their other songs?
Controversial tour. Beyonce? No, not Taylor. Controversial. How much time do I have left? Sabrina Carpenter? No, Madonna. Yay! Who is Madonna?
Who is Madonna? Yeah, she sang in Blind Ambition tour. It was I think it was like one of the last songs on that Blind Ambition tour.
What was the mashup?
Performance. It was It's a Family Affair.
With?
It's a Family Affair. It was mashed up with Keep It Together.
Oh.
Keep it together. Keep it together forever and ever.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yes.
That's cool. Well, yeah, I can see that because I think like Madonna's music
She's
she's got a lot of funk.
She loves her black men.
Oh, well. But most of the men she's dated, at least the famous ones, were not black. Like Warren Beatty.
She loves her men of color.
Okay, he's doubling down. Down. I know Madonna has doubled down.
Oh.
Okie dokie, moving
Do
along.
you know that though? Come on.
Don't we know that?
I don't know. It was probably in a book somewhere.
Is there anything the Material Girl has not done?
I have no idea.
Right.
Moving on.
One second. Just I gotta see my screen. Okay. So let's start with Brian Wilson. Why not?
Sure. Yeah. So Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the Beach Boys?
You know, I don't think I have ever put on the Beach Boys,
Right.
but I know a lot of their songs.
Yeah, and why?
They're just in the consciousness. They're at weddings. They're like in a lot of movies.
A lot of movies.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yes. How many movies?
They're in a lot of movies.
A lot.
A lot.
Many.
So many.
So many movies. One of my previously favorite Christmas movies, for example.
Yeah.
It has a song of theirs at the end and beginning, I think. The beginning and end, maybe? Yeah. That is the movie
Go on.
Love Actually.
That's it. Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
And what's the song?
Perimenopause. Fuck you. The song is God Only Knows.
Yeah. God
Which
only knows that I'd be without you. That is in so many movies, that song.
Uh-huh. And it has been like a lot of other songwriters and musicians have said it is a perfect song. It is one of the best songs ever written. It's a beautiful song.
Beautiful.
Don't you love that song?
I do. Yeah.
Da, 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 da. He says, like, his lyrics are so beautiful. I may not love you forever, but it's not showing me the lyrics.
How can it not show you the lyrics?
It's going to
Just
a weird...
Google it.
I am Googling it. It's not... Okay, here, finally. Okay. I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you never need to doubt it. I'll make you sure about it. So sure about it. But it's just such a beautiful, sweet song. And that's what all of their songs were like. They were just sweet, beautiful, and except for the surfing songs were just like fun, 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 till daddy takes your beach, whatever, T-Bird away. But I think this is just a...
Yeah, and it was on their album Pet Sounds or something
Yes.
like that. Yeah. And that album, when it was released, there was a lot of hope for it. And it actually did not do that well when it first came out. But it became like this kind of cult and foundational album that influenced a lot of other musicians. And one of those musicians is part of a band that you love, the Beatles.
Yes.
They
had a bit of a rivalry.
Yes, Sgt. Pepper's.
Well, just in general. But I didn't know about the Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah, I think that was around similar time. But I read that Paul McCartney said, I think it was Paul McCartney that said that they were that the genius of the production of Pet Sounds highly influenced the Sgt. Pepper's. And I think he said something like, he was quoted as saying, Sgt. Pepper's probably wouldn't have happened if Pet Sounds hadn't been made.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that there was that direct of a connection. I know that because they both were out in the same time period and the Beatles were doing their thing in the UK and Beach Boys were like the band, the sound
in North America.
For sure. I knew that there was like mutual respect, but kind of a rivalry because they both had their poppy, happy sounds. And the Beach Boys were the biggest act in the US, but then there was the British invasion.
Right, yeah.
And then it was all about the Beatles. So I think the Beatles kind of overshadowed the Beach Boys then. And again, like as we said, Brian Wilson kind of receded from the public eye and Pet Sounds came out a little bit later, right? Isn't that what
66, I think it came out.
Okay, so I don't know if that was before or after he kind of had his little self-reflective era where he...
Does before.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what happened, the timeline was like they had come out with a bunch of the, what is it, Surfing USA and all that kind of stuff. And then he wrote and produced Pet Sounds.
Right.
And he started to go into this, what is the timeline?
So actually, I have it here. So it was in the late 60s and 70s he withdrew from public life.
Right, yeah. So Pet Sounds, I think, was like the beginning of when he started to withdraw.
Right.
And he didn't quit the band, but he stopped touring with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and he just suffered a lot. He went through a huge mental illness crisis. They misdiagnosed him with all sorts of things. They diagnosed him with all sorts of things.
Well, and then did you read about that therapist he had?
Yes.
Totally crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he says that therapist saved his life.
Yeah.
So
it does raise another interesting question, which I think we've explored a little bit as well, about these musical geniuses and the connection with mental illness and drug use.
Right.
So why do you think that?
And it's not just musical genius, right? It's any artistic genius.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe any genius. If you think about that movie that Russell Crowe was in, A Beautiful Mind, right? I don't know what that level of IQ and intellect does to a brain. Because, like, if you're a genius, and I don't know, musical genius, do they also have like an extremely high IQ? I don't know, but they're considered a genius in their art form. Van Gogh was a genius, but does that necessarily mean that they had high IQs? I don't know if there's a direct correlation. However, when I think of people who are intellectual geniuses, like IQ wise,
like Don.
Like, okay, I'm not going to call him crazy, but I'm not going to say he struggles. But in A Beautiful Mind, or, I guess it must be difficult to have such a higher intellect than the people around you. Because how do you relate or interrelate to people?
It's hard, Priya. I tell you, it's hard.
For you to be on the lower end of the spectrum?
Yeah. Well,
how does Don do it, Mike?
Yeah, I know. He suffers. Yeah, I think I think you're right. Like, not just with intellect, but I think anybody who has these incredible skills.
Yeah.
Living in a world where if you're exceptional living in an average world, I think that would be challenging. Like, I think that would be very difficult. I'm an average person. I know I'm an average person, and I'm totally fine with that. But the world is also, I think, generally set up for
average people,
average
like us.
people.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'd be curious to read whether people are determined or diagnosed with mental illness who are exceptional, but it's actually not mental illness. It's just they're playing at a different plane.
Right.
There's a higher sensitivity to receiving information, perhaps, and processing that information. That doesn't necessarily mean they're crazy. It just means that they've got this like flood of information and they're trying to make sense of it in a world where generally that's not done. So therefore they're seen as unusual or mentally ill, quote unquote. Right. I'm sure I'm simplifying this, and it's obviously not an educated commentary, but it's an idea that I have about that.
It's okay. So I was just watching Good Will Hunting because my housemate Danielle filmed partly in Toronto, not all, yes,
and
at U of T,
at the college that Don was the principal of.
Right. Oh my God. And I actually know a few people who were in that movie.
Oh.
And so it was kind of fun watching it again because I was like, yeah, I know that. I went to university with that kid. I know that actor. But that movie, first of all, incredible movie.
Yeah, such a great movie.
Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote this screenplay and became the youngest winners of a Best Original Screenplay Oscar. And so it's about a genius. It's about a genius who is a janitor. Like, he has done nothing with his genius, but he ends up having to go to see therapy go to a therapist to avoid going to jail. And the therapist he ends up seeing is Robin Williams. What I found fascinating about that, in relation to what we're talking about right now, is that he keeps everybody at arm's length. He has his kind of core group of 4 friends that he's grown up with, and they're the only people that he doesn't sneer at. Everybody else, he's got nothing but contempt for, right? And as he's going through this process of therapy and stuff, you kind of, it comes out that he just like, he sees his life 100 steps ahead. He's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go out on a second date with this girl. Like, yeah, I had a great first date, but why bother going on a second date? So that eventually I can realize that she's not as smart as me and that she has nothing, that I'm going to get bored of her, and well, this and this and this will happen, and blah, 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 blah. And it's pointless. And Robin Williams says to him, so you basically are shutting out the entire world for what you think might happen and that's just a great way for you not to let people in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how that relates to what we're talking about, but I think it must be difficult for people who are operating on such a different level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do they come down from the clouds to talk to us mere mortals in an engaging way? Like, how do we keep their interest?
Yeah. Well,
I'm not saying I'm not saying like, oh, I want to keep their interest, but like that must be the challenge for them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. How do they keep their interest? Like, how do they work in the world? Yeah. And especially if there is any truth to my theory, especially if they live in a world where if you show your uniqueness or talent or exceptionalism, you get diagnosed or ostracized or boxed. They try to box you into some sort of,
Right. Because if you have a mental illness, then you are called crazy, even though like it might just be the chemicals in your brain. It's not like,
Now, what about the drugs though?
The drugs,
right?
yes.
Like, because the thing about these two, about Brian and Sly, was they were also artists coming through and coming of age, I guess, at a time like it was post 50s, 60s and 70s, a lot of experimental, drug use and
a lot of
psychedelics.
LSD, a lot of psychedelics, exactly.
Yeah. And so, on the one hand, it's like, oh yeah, okay, lots of people might have been experimenting, but like, I wonder about this, like perhaps self-medication but even then, like if you think about Prince, Michael Jackson, like these other kind of musical geniuses in their own rights and their drug use.
Now, but did Michael Jackson partake in recreational drug use? Or was it
Does it matter?
Well, it does matter because
if you're self-medicating for pain
But those are different from psychedelics, generally speaking. So with Sly Stone, for example, like he did a lot of psychedelics. Same with the Beatles. They went through their phase, which they said really sparked creativity in them and opened different avenues of musical styles and genres and just advanced their songwriting abilities and stuff. And that's what he said, but it did mess up his brain.
Right.
And he reportedly used to carry around a violin case full of drugs.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And that distanced him from the rest of his group and just really created a rift. And it destroyed his life, right? It's very sad.
Well, it is amazing to read these articles that are being written about these two men, especially, when I was thinking about the articles I read about Brian Wilson and just what he's been through and all the various iterations of him as an individual and as an artist. And he lived to 82.
I know. Both of these guys.
Yeah. Like
what they suffered through and struggled through, and yet they still managed to make it to 82.
Yeah. Like it is amazing.
It is. Did you know that Brian Wilson he is credited as being the first artist who wrote, produced, kind of took ownership of his own musical output.
Right. Yeah.
Before him, like people just didn't do that. There were singers and there were songwriters.
Right.
And never the twain shall meet. But he started to do all of it and then produce and take charge of his own sound or their own sound. And they did have a very, like, if you hear a song, it's the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
First of all, the sound of it, just so happy, kind of poppy. It just really is boppy. And the harmonies, right?
Yeah.
Their harmonies are exceptional.
Yeah, I read one of the former Beach Boys was saying that he would be relentless in the studio and they do like 25 to 30 recordings just to get the right, because they'd be so layered.
Right.
These
the harmonies.
These harmonies, yeah.
And they are stunning harmonies. Like you don't really hear harmonies like that nowadays. Sometimes on duets when different artists come together, but like if you think of bands, like you really don't get that level of harmonies because, like you said, there's so many layers.
Well, and a lot of stuff is probably AI generated as well, or filtered through different things. Like this was a different type of technology.
That's true. What are some of your favorite Beach Boys songs?
Well, God Only Knows definitely is one of them, and that does remind me of Love Actually.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite Christmas movies as well. But,
Yeah.
we've talked about that.
We have.
Hasn't aged well. What other songs?
What about this one? Wouldn't it be nice
Oh, yeah.
if we were
Yeah.
older? Then we wouldn't have to wait so long.
Yeah.
This song reminds me of my first love.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God. Because I remember...
The flip-flop one?
Why do you have to take it back to it?
No, I'm just trying to...
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
When I was 16. And yeah, my first love. And I remember just feeling like, oh, if only we were old enough that we could just live together and just like be together all the time. I remember actually, even though I didn't really listen to Beach Boys songs, I listened to this song back then because I remember thinking,
Wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice if we could just, live together in the kind of world where we belong? Oh,
yeah, I have like you. I don't think I've ever put a Beach Boys song on, like sourced it and played it, but I do. Like obviously I like
a lot of them, I'm sure.
But there's also a part of me that there's a bit of a sour taste in my mouth about it as well, because it's so. And that's more now. I get it as an adult. There's this sweetness and purity, and life is so great, and surfing USA, and it's also there's like this marketability about the U.S.
Yes,
and it just seems like it's covering the darkness, right? And so,
which Sly and the Family Stone really uncovered.
Yeah. So the superficiality of it kind of, I don't know.
But at the same time, was it superficial or was it two very different experiences in America at the same time?
Oh, a bunch of white.
Yeah. White surfer dudes having the time of their life.
Well, they weren't actually surfer dudes. Only one of them surfed.
But a lot of their songs were about surf culture.
Right.
So many songs relating to surfing.
Yeah.
It's
well,
crazy.
that was his, that was kind of his hook.
Yeah, and like at that time, surf movies were also incredibly popular, right? Like it was a whole genre in itself. All these surfing movies with like Anne Margaret and Elvis and stuff was in it, and then you had this whole culture around just beach culture. On the other hand, you had the black experience at the time, which was not so happy. Everything is not so cherries and sunshine because they were still struggling for their rights, and even though they had been granted certain rights, they were still considered second-class citizens, and there was so much overt racism. So it is interesting to talk about these two men who had very similar trajectories in their life, huge successes, but very different experiences.
So I was making some notes. I was recording some voice notes, not voice recordings. I was just like
did a
dictation.
bunch of those.
And one of my notes here says, Sly and the Family Stone, New York Times article, and Brian Wilson articles, and the way writers talk about the music they composed and how complex the songs were. I don't get it.
Right. Because Beach Boys songs seem so just poppy and like cheesy, kind of happy.
No, it's just it just reminded me that I am definitely not a music expert, and these music experts, they're talking about all of these different layers and complexities of these songs, and I'm like, I had no idea. Like I just don't see it that way. Although I wondered what this made me think about was, I wonder how, as an average listener with not a lot of musical knowledge, is that what makes a good song, is when you don't know why you really like it, but it's because of how complex it is. That's why you like it.
I think this is a great, you could say this about anything. You could say this about movies. You could say this about wine. You could say this about anything. Okay, because I work in the wine world, a lot of people will talk about a famed wine, like a Chateau Margaux or something, Chateau Haut-Brion, these like masterful wines from France. And this is why it's so layered and complex and this and that. And it costs like $20,000 a bottle. There's only 100 bottles left. And I would taste that and I would say,
it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't get it. I just do not have the depth of knowledge. But does that mean it's So is it good because they say it's good? Should
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good because they say it's good? Or like, I just feel like anytime I talk to people about wine, I'm like, here's the rules for how to pair wine with food.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't like it, you don't like it. Pair what you like.
Yeah.
So I also read a lot of articles about the musical genius and the layers and this and that. And one article I read where this
Okay, before we go there,
yes, go.
can I give a comment
Please.
before because we might change the theme?
Okay.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And it also made me think about TV and movies.
Right.
Because one of the things, before I met you,
Mm-hmm.
I'd never been behind the scenes of a movie or on set or, TV or whatever. So
Right.
I didn't know anything about things like continuity and how shots are taken and
Yes.
blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Well, after having those experiences, it completely changed the way I watch movies and television.
Ah.
Because there were things that I would notice on TV shows or something like that, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But then after being on set and after seeing how things get done,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm like, oh yeah. So now I always am able to identify a continuity flaw in a movie or a television show, or when things don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I can see why that's happened. Like, or I know why that's happened because I have a sense
you've
of
now
what's
experienced the other side of it.
Yeah.
Has that enhanced or detracted
It's
from your
totally
appreciation?
detracted.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was going to say, my next point was that I read this article in Variety magazine where the writer was saying that there was a time period in his life where he wasn't sure, he or she, actually don't know if it was a guy or a girl who wrote it. The writer was not sure if they wanted to have children. So they went on a retreat and they were just sort of like trying to figure out what they wanted to do with their life. Did they want to have kids? But they also had this new album that they had to review. It was the Smile album, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one song he said.
When was this? Because the Smile album was like,
in the 70s,
it took like 40 years for him to make that.
Oh, really?
Something like that.
I didn't know that. But he was listening to that album and he said that there was one song that completely changed his life.
Mm.
He was just listening to the album and then this one song came on and he said by the end of it, he knew he wanted to have children. And he looked at the CD to look at the song title and it was called Song for Children.
Huh. Interesting.
But so I thought that was kind of interesting, but also just like the way these musical writers know music and they can tie something in an album by Brian Wilson to something that, Taylor Swift said 30 years later. Like their knowledge is insane to me. But I don't know, does that really make a song good or bad? Or is it just about how you experience it and whether you like a song or not?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's to each his own, but I am impressed with some of these writers their ability to dissect and their understanding of, and they're just.
But don't you sometimes think that about fans too? Like, for example, the only thing that comes to mind is Taylor fans, of course, because on her folklore album, like those 3 songs, Betty and August and one other song, Cardigan, I think it was, where fans realized that they were all connected and they were all telling the same story from different sides. I guess like, wow, you guys really know her music or really listen to the music to such a degree that I wouldn't normally listen to music. Although I did also make that connection when I listened to it a few times. I'm like, wait a second, they're talking about being on a front porch. That was in another song. So I don't know. Citizen detectives.
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, that was something that I was thinking about as I was reading articles. I'm like, God, it's like some of these people, they're just seeing things that I just don't get. But,
I know. And
or they're able to articulate things that maybe I haven't connected.
Yeah. And it just opens up a whole new appreciation or understanding of an artist or a song or whatever. Do you know their song, Don't Worry, Baby? Don't worry, baby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Everything will turn out all right.
Yeah.
That is also, it actually isn't a song that I was very familiar with, but yesterday I was in the car heading to my mom's place, and that's an hour-long drive in traffic. So I put on Beach Boys Essentials, and I was shocked at how many of the songs I knew.
Yeah, yeah.
And that song came on, and I was like, oh, I mean, I've heard the song, but I haven't really ever listened to the lyrics. And it actually was quite emotional for me because
Oh.
that line, "Don't worry, baby, everything will turn out all right." Like, isn't that what we all want somebody to
Yeah.
tell us in
Yeah.
life?
Yeah.
And that song actually made me oftentimes nowadays, I don't really care about whether I have a partner or not. It's not something that's on my radar and I'm not looking for it. But that song, those lyrics do make me think about that. It's just so beautifully said.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
just love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know Hot Fun in the Summertime was Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
Hot Fun in the Summertime.
It's such a good summer song.
Yeah.
And
Did we sing that on it? I
like
think we did in this episode, right?
in this one, yeah, at the beginning.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So what's that? What's the other Sly Stone song that you?
Everyday People. Okay, now I can't. I have the Beach Boys songs in my head now, so I can't think about it. But
Everyday People.
something like that.
Yeah.
The lyrics. We don't know the exact lyrics, but that is a song like everybody knows when they hear it. And their music was just—it's like so groovy.
Yeah, yeah.
At least the sort of initial time period, their songs were like really danceable music, and they kind of created this like new sound where they have like weird instruments that they used because he was a multi-instrumentalist, like he could play tons of instruments, but there's like
Sly.
yeah, like there's weird sounds in their music that to me I'm like, what instrument is that? It doesn't even sound like an instrument. So they kind of created a whole new type of music. And there was a quote, I don't remember from whom, it was in one of the articles I read, because I read so many, that said there was black music before Sly Stone, and then there was black music after Sly Stone.
Right.
So that he influenced kind of everybody that came after him.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think they both did.
yeah.
I'm just curious if they ever cross paths. Like, what would that, I wonder what a collab between those two would have been like.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So it is sad that they both passed away. But don't you think, like, I wonder, so really it was this genre or this era of music, like the 50s and 60s, that's when, you know, a lot of the pop culture started to develop.
Right.
And so a lot of these artists who are passing away, like, what am I saying?
They were the pioneers of modern.
No. I was thinking more about how, you know, as these, they're pioneers, but as these pioneers of pop culture are now coming to an end in their life,
Right.
we're going to be obviously seeing more and more and more of this. And I wonder about how much of that is also about our own consciousness about, you know, art, music, and these icons that we've grown up with or we've identified. And I'm thinking, like who would our grandparents have been disappointed or sad to hear had passed away?
Oh God, grandparents is a
Right.
long time.
Right.
Because then we're talking about songs in like the, you know, early 1900s.
Well, and you know, when you think about the radio, like there weren't our grandparents didn't have television when they were
Right.
kids, right?
Yeah, so music wasn't really easily or readily available, except they would have had phonographs, right? Like records.
Yeah. So what I was thinking about was, you know, it's really sad and quite profound that these two, you know, music icons have passed away, and sadly the same week.
2 days apart.
Yeah, and we've had people that have passed away that you know have been cultural icons,
Yeah.
right? Like I'd mentioned Michael Jackson and Prince. And I just think it's kind of like everything, the information is so accessible now that before, when people of influence had died, like for our grandparents, it would have been something they read in a newspaper. Whereas now everything is just so easily accessible. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just think we're probably going to see, obviously, there's going to be more and more people. These, you know, when Paul McCartney dies, it's going to be like
I
a
know.
big deal, right?
Elton John, like some
John,
of these people.
like these are, yeah.
Steven Tyler.
I don't know
like,
why I'm going to this dark place, but
I don't know, but it is interesting because, you know, it does make you think of, and we have talked about this often, like death and dying and just life. And, but it's true. Like, as we get older, I think I am more aware of when people die, like people that I've grown up listening to or watching or whatever. It has more of an impact on me.
Well, and they played these key.
Yeah.
They connect with key moments in your life.
Sometimes
right?
pivotal moments or pivotal time periods. Like for me, when Matthew Perry died, that was extremely challenging for me because he was the same age, like roughly same age. And because when Friends was out for that 10 years, that was our life. Like they were living the same experiences we were living through. So it's almost like, even though I didn't know those people, I almost felt like I knew those people.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. It's like, oh, right. Oh, yeah. We're not immortal. We're all have our timelines. And it is weird when people you've grown up with pass away, or when you see them after years and you think, oh my God, you look so much older. It's like, right, time has passed.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's this one article that I read that was about the passing of Brian Wilson and Sly and the family.
like
about
one
Sly
article
Stone.
about both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a New York Times article by John Pareles, Pareles. And he is the chief pop music critic at the New York Times. And he said he finished his article with this. And I think it is a great way to kind of summarize.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson and Sly Stone were both geniuses in their time. There's absolutely no doubt. The recordings outlived them, ready to challenge and teach later generations. Their personal stories are sadder, the flesh is weak, but art lives on.
Isn't that?
I thought that was a great ending to the article. Like the article was really good, but I thought that was a really cool
you
way
really
to end
can't
it.
sum it up any better than that. Their art will live on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All
So,
right.
should we wrap it up?
We should wrap it up.
Wrap it up. All right, little listeners, thank you for being here and listening to us talk about this little episode.
Yeah.
And write us in, send us some comments, tell us what you think.
Do all the things.
Do all the things. And you can contact us by sliding into our DMs on Instagram at The Little Podcast, or send us an email at lifeisinthelyrics@gmail.com.
That's right. We'd love to hear from you guys.
All right. See you next Wednesday.
Ciao, Bella.
Bye.